Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public, and we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Friday. It is September the 13th, a Friday the 13th. That is a friendly Friday, so we'll have Steve Friend on here. He might be not as friendly as he's been on some other days. We're going to have a lot of fun, I think. I'm exhausted. Are you guys exhausted? Has this just been a really emotionally exhausting week for anyone other than me? It just seems like it's heavy. So I'm wearing a shirt today that kind of reminds me what it's all about. I'm going to show you guys real quick. This comes from my buddies over at Shield Arms. They just gave it to me when I was there. It says, faith over fear. It's probably a good reminder for us to kind of tuck into as we move into the weekend. Faith over fear is a worthwhile thing to meditate on. There's signs all over Kalispell, Montana. I went up there and kind of drove around, and I guess it's a local concept, but it's also something that we should embrace nationally. I'd love to see some signs like that where I'm out. Texas needs it. Idaho needs it. New York needs it. Faith over fear. The fear that things are not going to work out. And there's a real chance that the things that we hope for are not going to work out. We got to kind of remember it right now. God's plan is not our plan, right? That's just the way that it works. So we can continue to hope and to pray and to row for the shore at the same time, and it doesn't mean we're getting there. I don't mean to rain on anybody's parade, but I'm just seeing like a lot of foolishness, and I keep seeing it. And I'm seeing it from Trump's campaign. I'm seeing it from Walz's campaign and Harris' campaign. It's just ugly. It's just an ugly time. So it makes me think, go out there, meet the neighbors, do the most important thing you can do, which is insulate your community locally. America's done locally. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick promotion for my friends at My Patriot Supply. Guys, you don't need me to tell you that life is precious. Obviously, it is precious, and it can all be taken away pretty much in an instant. That's why you need to make sure that you have emergency food, and the 4-week emergency food kit is the option available to you right now at My Patriot Supply if you guys go to preparelikekyle.com. It's got everything you need for a family in a crisis, over 2,000 calories a day. It's a short one. It's the 4-week version. You never know when there's going to be times of social unrest, government crackdowns, God forbid, an attack on the homeland like we talked about last night. And if that is the case, if it's something you deal with, you want to make sure that you can handle things before there's mass panic around you. It wasn't that long ago. You guys recall. You're going to make sure that you have your family's safety taken care of. Don't take it for granted. Make sure you guys go and save $50 right now on the 4-week emergency food supply kit from My Patriot Supply. Again, preparelikekyle.com. Save yourself $50 on the 4-week emergency food kit. It's My Patriot Supply. They ship fast. It happens very, very quickly, and then some UPS truck will come and block your driveway and drop off a huge series of boxes, which makes you feel pretty good to know that you got a lot for your money. Mine took just a couple days to get here, and it was very, very quick. Free shipping, that's a big deal. Again, the 4-week emergency food kit, preparelikekyle.com. Use the website, preparelikekyle.com. You saw it on the screen. That's how you do it. How about someone that is prepared to just dish a Friday? It's Friday the 13th, Steve. We're wearing the same color shirt. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the faith over fear. Serendipitously, I was having sort of a similar discussion with Garrett O'Boyle this morning, and I said that the most difficult part of a SWAT selection, I know you've been through some hard training as well, are the intervals where you don't know when the end is coming because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, and you just have to have faith because that fear will creep in like, it's never going to end. I'm going to die. And you just have to say, look, I'm standing on firm ground. I'm equipped. I'm prepared. I'm capable. I will make it through this. And then you just push on. And that's sort of the place we find ourselves all And I'm glad to be here on a free agent friendly Friday.
Let's talk about that on one side. Let me delve into the concept of the unknown distance, unknown time limit. That's a really good metaphor for our life, and it's something that special operations uses. Obviously, SWAT uses as well. Apparently, it's something that you do because we don't know what the time limit is on any of the trials that are in front of us. That's kind of the brilliance of being a human being, and so that's the closest way you can approximate like true uncertainty. I remember one. So I did PJ Indoc selection, and one of the things they do is this thing that's called the extended training day, which is a really nice euphemism. It probably sold well and briefed well. It's unlimited training until we get bored of you or your teamwork is good enough that we've knocked out all the people that suck. That's what they do. And one of the great events was they woke you up at 3 o'clock in the morning with bull horns, and you roll out of bed and throw on your fatigues and throw on your boots and grab your helmet and your boot, your pack and all this stuff. And then we low crawled a couple hundred yards from the dorms or the barracks out to the training facility, and people got hit with hoses and a bunch of other stuff. And it was relatively miserable. And then we went on a ruck, unknown distance, unknown time limit. And what you find is that a lot of people do the same thing that you expect in your regular life. They start out really fast and you think, oh my God, I'm being left behind. There are people out there, and this is true in your personal life, right? Like there's people that are making more money, that are in a career and they're feeling good, and you're looking around and you're going like, what the hell? Like, I'm smart, I'm capable.
Failure to launch.
Yeah, what's going on? And I remember when I took off on that trip, and it ends up being, I don't know how long the mileage was, but it was enough for it to suck pretty good. And I remember I just started off at the pace that I knew I could handle. And it's like either what I'm doing is good enough or it's not. But I can't perform at a level that I'm not ready to perform. So I just started jogging. And what I did is I jogged up all the hills and I walked down all the hills. And in the first mile or two, everybody passed me because they're all young, right? Like I'm 29 years old going through this, and I've got like 18 and 19-year-old guys who could literally break their dick off and it'll grow back the next morning kind of thing. Like you remember when you were young,
like a starfish.
Yeah, like a starfish. And I just remember by about the third or fourth mile, all of them were tuckered out because they sprinted and they were crushed. And here I am, just like the turtle, 29, and I was the second oldest guy on the team. Just cruising along at the same pace that I started at. And that continued all the way through the end. And I ended up being one of the top couple finishers. There were people that were obviously faster and more fit in that sort of environment. I'm not tall. I don't have long legs. I am more like a turtle or a battle dwarf. But there's
dangerous over short distances. But you embrace the old bull versus the young bull mentality.
That's right. But you know what? It's like the same as the old dog and the young dog. It's like the young dog sprints everywhere and runs around all the corners. The old dog cuts through the alley and knows where they're going to be. And this is a law enforcement paradigm. It's a military paradigm. It's a good life paradigm too, that as we get older, we slow down a little bit, but hopefully we're wiser and we start looking at it. Man, there's some really dumb old people that are running around in the world right now looking to be in charge of it. And so I've got some interesting clips. There's so much insanity, it's hard to actually digest it. It was overwhelming as we kind of got started this morning. And I just went like, what the hell's going on in this country? How do we end up in 2024 in the situations that you and I are in? Let's talk about free agent. Folks, you have no idea what's been going on in the background for months. Would that be accurate?
Oh, I would say that at a minimum months.
Let me actually do this. Before you do your free agent, let me launch in that your impact is a slow burn. Because Tulsi Gabbard got on Fox last night and referenced you and dug into the archives from like 2022. Yeah?
She got a deep pull. It was not just like a simple like throwaway, like I heard this guy Steve Friend online reference. It was actually not something that a lot of people know about that she referred to on Fox News on Laura Ingram's program.
I think my mom does voice to text. I'm not 100% sure. Or she's texting it and she's drinking, in which case, Mom, stop the drunk texting. But I got this sort of like drunken sounding message that resembled Steve Friend was referenced on Fox. So I went and found the clip for you. We're going to play that. Then I'm going to let you talk about the free agent nature. This is about a 95, maybe like a minute and 45-second clip. So we'll give it. She doesn't stop talking, by the way. She does what we do. She just starts filibustering. She's on Ingram and she just doesn't stop. So I'm going to try to find a reasonable stopping point. Here we go.
It's hard not to laugh at his statement where he tried to sound so serious and so convicted and so grave about never, ever politicizing or weaponizing these government agencies, when in fact, that is what they are doing currently and what they have been doing for years, even going all the way back to during President Trump's administration. I would tell Merrick Garland today, if you are serious about the words you have just delivered to the American people, why don't you start by investigating some of your own federal agencies, like the Department of Homeland Security and TSA, and ask them why, after one day, the very next day after I called out Kamala Harris for being a danger to our country, should she be elected as president, I got added to a secret domestic terrorist list. That's a good place to start. Why doesn't he start by going after people within his own FBI who, after FBI agent Steve Friend blew the whistle on how the FBI is essentially being used as the Democrats' police force, their personal partisan police force, he was attacked by the leadership of the FBI, doxing him, exposing his own private medical records, and so forth.
All right, that's where I'm going to stop. She goes on and talks about Merrick Garland. We'll talk a little bit about that in a moment for you and I to
the general.
She dug into the archives from like the New York Times piece and the sort of call out that we did. The original sort of labeling of the suspendables came from that open letter we wrote, and that was over 2 years ago at this point. It's pretty neat.
We're at that point. September 19th, I believe, was the day that's again serendipitously our names came out the same day. And we were in contact with each other within a couple of hours. And within a couple of minutes of talking on the phone, I think I said something to the effect of, whatever door you go through, I'm going through with you. And that's because
See, this is why eyewitness memories can't be trusted. I think I said that.
It was we're simpatico. You actually your first interview with Dan Bongino, I was listening to it and I said, my wife, you have to listen to this guy. And she started listening for a couple of minutes, and then she said, I have to stop because it's like listening to you talk. It's disturbing me.
And that was it. Like, there's not that many of us out there. So do you want to do free agent, or do you want to do a joke about it first? Because I have something funny that I want you to explain to people, lest I have to.
Oh, you go ahead and send the joke. Always Fridays.
Let's start with the joke, folks. Okay. I got this from a friend within the FBI. If you're listening to the audio podcast, I'm going to make Steve Friend read this in the most dramatic way possible and explain what it is. But for those of you who are looking, I want you to look at the screen intently. Ignore the badge and the seal. Steve, what do we have on the screen right now?
That is a photo shot from your link on the FBI network. That's your internal messaging system, your like Slack channel. Where it says, Seraphin, Kyle, Matthew, AQ, meaning Albuquerque Division, FBI, offline 877 days. And it has what you've clearly put down there as a permanent message.
It's my away message. It was just like what people would see if I was online or offline. If they looked for status, they would see this message.
And normally it would be like out of the office or on vacation, see you next week, something to that effect. And Mr. Seraphin felt compelled to say, a ghost gun was previously known as a positron collider, or simply a proton pack. All the kids in the 80s wanted one.
Because it was after some sort of press conference where Merrick Garland was talking about ghost guns being a threat to America.
I love how you capitalized ghost gun.
Yeah, it's a ghost gun. Like it's the Kevin De Leon. I've added some sound stuff because the references that live in my heart are things like this. We got one. Like it's like Janine. Right, from the Ghostbusters. Like, these are the kind of things that live in my head. And yes, everybody wanted a positron collider. Didn't you want a proton pack when you were a kid?
Just don't cross the streams. That's all you got to remember.
Just imagine all life exploding away from each other at the speed of light, right? It's like, so bad, right? It's like, yeah, everybody wanted a ghost gun. I could never figure out why they shot so irregularly. That seemed like that was a design flaw, that it just followed like some arbitrary arc that relatively made it towards like there was no real aiming of that thing.
Range session, especially during an FBI executive shoot with a proton pack, would be fun. They probably hit more inmates than the LA field office did recently when they shot an inmate by accident in a firearms session.
We're already having fun. All right, so I'll put that down. But I just wanted you guys to know 878 days as of today that I have been offline from the FBI systems. And it's fun to think about it. So that's like 2.5 years or whatever the heck it is. Why are you a free agent today, Steve?
Well, I am no longer employed. I had a fellowship with a think tank. And essentially what it came down to was a decision for me to, publicly disavow you to a certain extent, not have a public friendship and to not appear on your programs. And was put for a decision for all my chips, which is never a good thing to do to a suspendable. And I then therefore elected to go through every door with my suspendable colleagues. And I received a notification this week that my employment was terminated and a severance package was offered. I will be formally responding to that severance package, but you can take my appearance here on Friendly Friday of the Kyle Seraphin Show on Friday the 13th, 2024 as formal memorialization that I reject the severance package because 1 month of salary is not worth saying that I can't say what happened behind closed doors. And that was, I was told, you can't be friends with Kyle anymore. It's us or him.
Somebody offered you basically like $9,100 to just keep your mouth shut. And apparently they didn't look at the fact that you spit on a $5 million paycheck for the rest of your life. What planet do these people live on? I know. So folks, so you understand, we've been talking about this in the background because, and this is something that I'm actually going to dig into. There are a lot of people in the orbit, and it's not Trump specifically. It's the people that like latch onto Trump like a barnacle, and they're all around him, and they constantly are doing things that don't seem to make sense for whatever movement they're talking about, which I'm not a part of, but if I was a part of it, I'd be grossed out by it. And most of you don't get to see it because it's behind the scenes and they're basically curating this information. This is a lot of this Julie Kelly situation too. It's like, we can't harm the movement, even though this person is maybe a grifter or they're a net positive towards what we're trying to accomplish, but they don't have any principles. And so they do the same thing that we've been calling out over and over again, which is people that choose institution over constitution, people that choose personality and this cult of personality over like the actual principles that are supposed to be out there.
People who subscribe to the belief, the decision is always, this isn't the hill to die on. They don't have an Isaiah 6:8 in them. They're not capable of creating that and noticing and knowing what the factors are and realizing that Isaiah 6:8, Esther, something to that effect. You're born for such a time as this. And if you can't find where the fight is, then you're ill-equipped to handle the fight.
You probably missed the fight. And a lot of us, I think that we got a second chance as a country because of what happened during the COVID shutdowns. It was like a lot of people were unprepared to get smacked. They've never done a selection where they said, it's now or never for you. They've never gone through a moment where it's like, do or die. And I remember a moment very specifically. I was doing WaterCon, which is the bane of everyone's existence that's a normal human being that doesn't have gills. And so we were doing
drown for a 3 months.
Yeah, you just drown professionally. And so I was getting hammered with something. And I'm a great swimmer, folks. Like I don't want to belabor that too much, but like in the percentiles of swimmers in the world, I've got to be in the top, very small percent because I used to swim competitively for many years. But I'm not a good underwater creature because I don't have gills. And so when you're used to swimming on top of the water, and then they're like, by the way, go underwater, don't get any air, and then do that for as long as we tell you until you black out or until you finish the mission. And you go like, oh, that's not what I'm programmed to do. I'm programmed to breathe. So like everybody else does. And this is why this is so difficult. That's why special operations dive missions in particular are like such a strenuous idea. So I go through this water confidence training, and one of the things they do is this progressive underwater system where you're swimming underwater, full fatigues, by the way. You're wearing booties that catch like parachutes on your feet and your ankles, and you're trying to tie them up with something. And then when you get to the bottom, at the end of the lap on the pool, you turn around, you swim back underwater for a little ways, you pop up, and then you can swim freestyle. And then you have a few seconds to rest. And I mean a few seconds. Like when we're doing them fast, you would have 10 seconds to catch your breath, and then you do it again. And then you do it again. And so you're getting progressively more hypoxic. You're getting less and less oxygen in your system. And I remember I'm halfway into one of these drills, and a dude decided to ride me like a surfboard. He was one of the instructors. He's on a snorkel watching everybody underneath, and they call it sharking. And so he drops the snorkel, he swims down, he grabs a hold of the scruff of my neck with the what do you call that? The blouse uniform, and he puts his feet squarely on my back, and he sinks me to the bottom, and he just stands on me. And I went like a couple of strokes, and then he waited, and then I panicked, and I went to the surface. Not ashamed to admit it, it happens. And I finished the lap, and I get back there, and they pulled me aside, and they said, Seraphin, get up here. And I'll still remember this guy's name was Tech Sergeant Cervantes. He was the class instructor. And he said, that's your one. You do it again and you're done. And I feel like COVID was our one. We got a warning. You do it again and you're done. And we don't mean like you're kicked out of the program and you don't have a job in the program I was trying to do. I mean like we may not have a country because we've rolled over to the point where they already know that they can steamroll a lot of people with tyranny.
they know that people were grateful for the opportunity to put a diaper on their face, to go to a big box store, to walk one way down aisles, to spend their government stimmy check because the local store was non-essential and everyone was told to stay home and stay safe. And these were people who the month before were wearing t-shirts that said, "Don't tread on me," and they were ready for civil war, and then they just folded like a cardboard box in a rainstorm.
Yep, just snapped. And they've given room for this thing to grow, which I just been trying to find a place to work this in because it's so incredibly weird. I want to play you the type of people that bloomed when the "don't tread on me," hard men, create good times types got out of their pickup trucks, threw their keys and sat down on the couch and watched the world go by on television and said, "Oh, it's so crazy." It bloomed in Seattle like algae, like a red tide. Look at this. I don't even know this is just laughing at loony lefties, but there's a lot of it. And so I want to share this one with you, Steve. You got a little taste of it before we got started. Here's the full dose. This is a sex worker, possible potential furry sex trauma survivor. I don't know. She or he will describe his or herself.
Good morning. My name is Bingo, and I'm here today because I'm a disabled survival sex worker and performer in District 7, and here to oppose the prostitution loitering/soap bill. What this bill proposes will take away the important community and resources that we desperately need. I depend on client and gig work to pay my bills. Passing this bill will take away an essential income for me, one that I need to stay alive. Passing this bill could kill me. It will kill my friends. Criminalization never saves. It never takes away what it seeks to. This is already known, seen time and time again. All it does is cause further harm to the community it seeks to control. All this bill will do is put my friends and I at higher risk. This bill will put us in desperate situations. Again, it will kill us. I need you to hear me and see me as a person. Passing this will force a crisis on me and my friends. I will not be able to earn for what I need in order to survive. I do need my work. My friends do. Don't take away our work from us. Listen to us. Thank you.
I think that's a dude named Bingo with bunny ears on, speaking to the city council about the need for prostitution. Ready, go.
I was very distracted by everyone wearing a mask in 2024, exactly including Bingo, who pulled it down so that we could hear they, them, she speak about themselves, about the need, very important need for they, them to use their body to earn an income in the oldest profession. That's what looks like when just before the Visigoths come over the wall.
It's mind-blowing to me that we give a public voice to absolute loonies like this. In the meantime, you've been more or less muzzled. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I'm happy to elaborate more. I was told, and if anyone pays attention to social media, and if you don't, congratulations and good on you, and keep doing that. But I was told that there are certain engagements going on social media that I was not allowed to participate in and not allowed to engage in. It was unprofessional and unbecoming. And so I steered clear of them, and then was told that I couldn't criticize office holders, elected officials, because they had certain letters by their names and they were off limits. And that was not something that was we were able to do. And I was told that I was unable to appear with your program because you said things that were against the movement, like criticizing a journalist for their poor reporting and then record of donations to people who are facilitating and funding the persecution of people that they are reporting on.
What is your impression from sitting behind the curtain? One of the things we always talk about here on the intro is that we take a look behind the curtain. You got a unique view, because I don't have that view. I didn't get to look back there. I wasn't participating in a bunch of conversations with think tank people that think that they're driving MAGA policy. And I'm going to call it MAGA and not GOP. Is that accurate?
I think that it's its own entity at this point. It's co-opted the entire Republican, whatever the perception is within this country. It's downstream of Donald Trump. He's the king.
Mm-hmm. Would you believe, or would you think that the people that put MAGA in their bio, that wear the hats, that put on the shirts, would they be appalled by the people that are leading whatever the movement is?
They're fundamentally different and they can try to put on the uniform and put on the hats themselves. But at the end of it all, it's still a big party that you ain't in it if you're not in the Ivory City and part of these conversations that are going on, where you're supposed to be shifting the paradigm and you're going to be fearless about these changes that you're going to bring to the fold. And then if you propose things that you're hoping will infiltrate into the ecosystem, that you're told, well, this isn't the hill to die on. I'll give you a perfect example. I was making recommendations about future FBI, and I want the FBI gone, but you have to be pragmatic, Steve. This isn't the hill to die on. So what should we do? I said, well, maybe make it so that they can't go to Congress and say, I'm sorry, we can't comment on an ongoing investigation. They have to be fully transparent. That would be a reasonable measure. I think most people in this audience, most people around the country would agree with. And I was told that's not something we can do because when we're in charge, we want that power. And this is coming from the intellectuals within the MAGA movement.
They don't have respect for the people that are in the movement, because I think if you ask people within the movement, I don't have a problem with the MAGA people in general. I think they're being led around by the nose by the folks that actually have the power, that have the influence, that have the credentials, whatever it looks like. We're on this team, and so you have to support us types. But it's my impression that if you were to go out there to your average person who's wearing a MAGA hat or a MAGA t-shirt or got Donald Trump as a Terminator or whatever the heck t-shirts are out there, because there's some funny stuff that's happened with Biden recently, those people would be like, yeah, tear it down. Absolutely. And the people that are really driving the movement are still establishment types, and they're saying, no, don't tear it down. We need to use that evil tool. They're the people that don't understand the ring of power needs to go into the mountain.
They will utter the phrase, we just need a change at the top, and everything else will be fine. The status quo is fine as long as we're in charge. It's a big game. It's a big charade. And they talk about access and being able to influence. And really, that doesn't mean anything other than but the same thing that politicians do. They're not moving and paradigm shifting policy for the country for anything objectively good. They're just saying things that get them on TV in the same way that everybody in the space is just trying to get attention for themselves. Meanwhile, when it comes down to governing or trying to create a better world, and what are you conserving? It's not there. They're just happy to just bend the knee to out of control system as long as they get cut off a slice themselves.
Are there any people in the camp that you see that just actually do have courage of conviction? We just heard Tulsi Gabbard, who seems to be running roughshod over whatever you're allowed to say, but I don't have a ton of trust, only because she's kind of like a pro-abortion, anti-Second Amendment historically person. Who's out there that's getting it done at a real level that we can kind of go, yes, we still believe in that person?
I mean, at Black Bill, I can't name anyone. I really can't. I mean, the people that you would genuinely say, like, I think that guy's good, they don't have institutional power and they sort of recognize it. I mean, and you are friendly with like a Mike Waller, and he's been in that game for a long time. And when I've sort of opined behind the scenes with him on certain things, he just says that's just the way it is. And that is an irreversible system, which is why in order to bring that down or to shake things up, you can't just pare it back. You can't just make it nibble around the edges. It's going to take a huge groundswell of an effort that I don't know if any one person can immediately bring about in a very short period of time. But you could start. I mean, you can't just sit around and say, oh, I got to throw my hands up. It's just too hard. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time, but it has to be a big bite. Like, we need to say, oh, we're just going to defund the FBI. That's gone. Deal with it.
It's the same thing I was talking about with, so I actually got called out, if you want to call it that, or I had people call me, is more accurate. And they were very upset that I said that Mike Lee had a foolish intern that was running his social media account and said something stupid about the FBI, which it was objectively stupid to me because I've worked for the FBI and I know more about the FBI than Mike Lee does. I'm just going to say that straight up. You do too. There are a few people in the world that know a lot more about the FBI, and they all worked at the FBI, and we know what the animal looks like from the inside. So when we say it, you should just go, oh, that's a really interesting perspective. And I don't say things nicely on social media because I don't feel compelled to. They work for us. I don't feel like I have to kiss the ring of any politician, which is why I piss off people, and why I expect that will be the case more for you now too.
And social media and X
it's
in
not
particular
real.
Is not real. And we have people that are supposed to be leading the country who believe it is, that they do things just to pose on a social media website. They're on it all day long, which is utterly terrifying. I mean, I was even talking about the congressional baseball shooting, the fact that we had reps that were almost assassinated back in 2017. We're paying these jackasses to go play baseball and then play on Twitter. When Garrett and Marcus and I testified, there were people actively on their phones, members of Congress, tweeting out what they were doing while they were in the hearing with us. It's a dog and pony show, and you can't take any of these people seriously. So no, I'm not going to hesitate now just because you have an R by your name. I'm not allowed to criticize you. That's ridiculous. If you're doing something that is not in the interest of me or the country, then you need to be held to account. And the fact that they're so thin-skinned is a leverage point. That means you can actually move them. But if you're so afraid of losing your access to the person and hurting their feelings, then what we wind up with is, well, we just need a change at the top, or it'll be better when we're in charge. And you can see the end result is a prostitute with bunny ears speaking to a town council about how if you don't let her turn tricks, people will die.
Which is an incredible statement. I want to add one more little piece of actual personal experience. I had credible information to the point where there was paperwork behind it showing that the FBI held a meeting at the J. Edgar Hoover building in November of last year that made fun of congressional Republicans doing investigations into the FBI, which has oversight of them. They brought on 7 executives, senior people within the Office of General Counsel, to make fun of Republicans to the point where the quote that I heard was, "No adult reviewed this program before it went live," or words to that effect. And I sued, and I'm currently in litigation with them to get that video, which is about 20, I think it's like an hour long. And the FBI is withhold all of it. They're withholding all of it for no good reason. And I said, it'd be really good if Congress got behind this. This is an unclassified, potentially open source video document that shows exactly what's going on. And you know what I was told, Steve?
This isn't the hill to die on.
It would really hurt Jim Jordan's feelings to hear people saying mean things about Jim Jordan who work for the FBI while Jim Jordan is saying that they're going to hold them to account. They don't want to have the FBI slander them on a video record, even though it would actually make them look amazing to the base. Because people will go, if the FBI hates you, F the FBI, we like you more. Wouldn't that be nice? And by the way, thank you for getting this video out. Meanwhile, guys like me are going out there and paying out of my pocket, by the way, to start a lawsuit to expose it. And they told me it's inconvenient for us to hear mean words from people that we actually don't like. It tells me everything we need to know about them.
And we're coming up on the end of the fiscal year, and the fake budget fight that they're not going to have because they're just going to pass it along because we can't have a government shutdown. Because what is a partial government shutdown? I mean, how many people died over Labor Day? That's what that looks like. We have to allow this organization, our ex-girlfriend, to go out there and continue to lock up 89-year-old concentration camp survivors, because that's preferable outcome to a Labor Day weekend. And we certainly don't want to have a Jim Jordan's name besmirched. Jim Jordan, who I wasn't allowed to name check until today on a free agent friendly Friday. Jim Jordan,
literally, who he was a person who was off limits.
Never reached out to me.
Do you know what I remember? Do you remember those things where they were talking about? It was in the movie The Departed, and they're like, "There's a guy you can hit, and there's a guy that you can't hit." And while he's not a guy that you can't hit, he's damn close to the guy that you can't hit. So there better be like a really good reason if you're going to cross the line and hit him. Do you remember that kind of conversation?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the Donnie Brasco, like friend of ours.
It's the same idea, yeah. But they played it out in The Departed in sort of a Boston, a Boston mob. Same idea. I think I actually have a clip of Jim Jordan. Do you want to see a clip of Jim Jordan? He was getting really upset. Somebody gave him a hard time, and I have a video of that.
I really live for Jim Jordan taking umbrage and threatening to get to the bottom of things and issue strongly worded letters and subpoenas.
Well, this is more than a strongly worded letter. This is a legit threat. Here's Jim Jordan, I think.
Get the fuck out of my face now!
Ooh, that was very rude of you.
Get the fuck out of my face!
Do you want to go to jail? Sir, ma'am, I don't really know what to call you.
You're fucking done, man.
I'm done.
The fucking police, you just insulted me.
Well, listen here, pal. I mean, you are going to go to jail.
And I could fucking tell the police to get you.
I'm vegan, so don't say that. Listen.
You told me, He-Man, you really get the fuck out of my way right now.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that.
You do not have a release. I will sue you.
You're going to sue him? Don't sue him, man, because we're trying to just...
You do not have a release. If you fucking post this, I will destroy you. I will destroy you.
Just keep going on. I got my crew with me now. I got my crew. Yeah! Yeah! What's up? Woo! Who won? Who's next?
I don't think that was Jim Jordan, actually. I think that was just some weird trans guy.
Their wall signs were great.
Yeah, it kind of has the same build and pugilistic attitude right up until the odds are against the favor there.
Look, I tell my kids, if you know your boys, at some point you're going to have to throw hands with somebody. That's normal, natural. One, make sure that it's not on a hard surface. Go to a soft surface. You don't want anybody's head getting cracked. But the one who embraces the fight wins every single time. And you could see that they them was screaming and then would walk aggressively, and then about 8 feet away would start slowing up. And that's not embracing the fight. There's nothing happening.
No, actually, there was a video of a guy that was yelling about Israel protesters. I think they were pro-Israel protesters, and they were protesting Hamas nonsense. I don't know what was going on. It doesn't matter. Guy decided he's like on the other side of the street, and he runs through traffic. He didn't wait for the traffic to stop. He just ran through the middle of it, committed, and accelerated like a freight train into the attack, and got shot in the belly, by the way, because the guy who was not embracing the fight stood there flat-footed, got hit, and then ended up shooting the guy. And you go like, yep, it's exactly what you said. By the way, they chose a hard surface, which is not a good choice. But whoever embraces the fight is going to definitely have at least the advantage in the first contact.
That's the best footage of like these streakers that run across like a baseball field is the security guard who like comes in from the side and then just trucks them. And you know that like the streakers kind of like jogging and not really into it. They don't even need to be blindsided. It's over.
Yeah, just taken down. I actually do have a couple of like little news articles that we'll talk about. It's not going to just be this game here. Look at this. Trump's not going to participate in any more debates. 2024, that was coming from CNN, ABC, and CNN both had the same thing. Well, he's not going to do a rematch. He's done for now. Well, you sat through that debate with me. I don't want to call it a debate. I keep putting in air quotes because there was no debate on policy. So it was just like, it was a 3-on-1 dog pile. I don't think Trump did well, but I don't think that it actually moved the needle. So we talked about this the other day. She won whatever that was. The cat fight is more accurate since we're talking about cats and dogs right now. She won the cat fight, but like it didn't move the needle, and he doesn't want to participate in another one. Is that a good move or is that a bad move? Speaking of fights.
I don't think it's a bad move. I think the bad move is announcing it and just reminding people that there was a debate that you underperformed in.
Yep.
And you could post game that all day long. I mean, I think, I had ideas about it. That was the perfect encapsulation of what like the MAGA movement is, and that was like just some memes that make us laugh. I mean, you and I were like bent over laughing at some of the things he said, but that's not gonna do what the mission was. And the mission was not to make her look like she's not a palatable option, to just small timer. You're the JV team. I'm not even going to talk to you. In fact, why don't you stay over there and be quiet? I'll just debate the moderators. But I also said that the legendary move would have been to do the Eminem 8 Mile and to walk in there and say, I came in here under these conditions. I know it's going to be 2 moderators against me and Kamala Harris against me. It's 3-on-1. And I accepted those conditions so I could come here and say the following. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? Because she's been in charge for the last 4 years. And then take the mic and drop it and walk off the stage.
Like actually drop the podium mic.
Yes.
Yeah, like if you have to unscrew it, then do it. Like take a moment, just like unscrew it, or even just drop, take off the wind guard and drop it and roll.
And then never respond to, he was afraid. It doesn't matter. It's a legendary clip that will be played up there with, there he goes again, forever.
Put it in your rear view mirror and flip the rear view into night mode so you can't see anything. You're just seeing the roof, and don't ever look back. I agree with you. Because some of they gave him opportunities. Before we press on, because we'll press on, let me do a quick little read for Catholic Vote, and they've got more news than we're going to cover today. So if you guys want like news, we'll do that. We're going to be kind of riffing on some ideas here that I think are good. I've also got like probably the funniest single moment. If this was the only clip that got played over and over again, it would make my life happier, because I wasn't satisfied with that debate, other than he said he was speaking, and that was fun. And then this one. Well, before we do that, let's do the Catholic Vote thing. Folks, you guys can check out the loop, and you should get the loop. I've got my loop right here. It's on the phone. I get the email every single morning. Today's Friday. The 13th version shows that the judge is cutting down more of the counts against Donald Trump in Georgia. That thing seems like a failure. They're talking about a pro-life victory in Florida, which is good news. That's what it should be. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end here. Some other stuff about a Catholic diocese, talking about school chaplains and the fact that they're trying to put Satanistic chaplains in some of these schools because we need to have fairness. We don't need that fairness. We don't need to have weirdo hookers and trannies and stuff like that putting on costumes and talking to the city council. If you guys want good news that actually is solid coverage, go to CatholicVote.org. Sign up for the Loop. Follow them on social media at Catholic Vote. Follow them on YouTube if you happen to have a YouTube account, because we'll be putting stuff out there very soon. I'm telling you what's going on in advance. What we're doing, Steve, is we're doing a bunch of dry runs so we don't show up at the prom and try out a new dance. So we're actually prepared. So all of it, like the Catholic Vote team and I have been basically creating nonstop podcasts that we just don't show anybody and throw away as practice.
Sounds a lot like the American Radicals podcast if you watch our viewing statistics.
We'll get to that as well.
This is a Free Agent Friday.
It is Free Agent. He's sending it. Somebody just brought up Laura Loomer in the chat. You know what? I got a Laura Loomer thing. You want to talk about people that hurt, quote unquote, the movement? I just don't like when people are non-serious, and I don't like it when people do unforced errors. They're totally unnecessary. Here's the thing. By the way, this joke is actually, first of all, it's not funny, but some of the stuff that Laura Loomer does, I don't hate because she's just kind of like a bulldog. She's a bull in a china shop. She's kind of fearless. She's also kind of like really, really inaccurate and very, very unscrupulous about the way that she sources her information. So she's happy to be wrong as long as she's first, sometimes when she's right. And so anyway, this leads to this stupid thing. This is not how you find independent voters. This is not how you make people think that like having a Laura Loomer run around with you on the plane is a terrible decision. Let me throw you a Laura Loomer. She probably was someone you couldn't criticize before, but today we will. Here's a taste.
A woman named Laura Loomer who recently tweeted that if the vice president wins the election, the White House will smell like curry, and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center, among other things. She recently traveled with the former president, and I wonder if President Biden has read these remarks and his response.
Let me tell you our response from here. It is repugnant, these types of comments. It is un-American to say these types of things, exactly the kind of hateful and...
Allow me to have moral outrage and thank you for the question that was obviously set up so that I could go on this terrible little scripted rant of nonsense. It might as well have been the damn debate the other night.
Let me just tell a really nasty story about an acolyte of Donald Trump who's running in an election against somebody who's not the president, and tell the whole story and then be like, and what does the president think about that? So the appropriate answer to that would be, so you want to know what the president's thoughts are of a private citizen making a comment about a presidential election in which a president isn't involved in? That doesn't seem like what's in my lane here.
That sounds like a Hatch Act violation.
Actually, idiots saying moronic things is probably the most American thing ever. When she says it's un-American, no, actually,
it's not American.
Have you seen X? Because apparently that journalist didn't realize it's called X now, not Twitter. Quit dead naming that social media profile.
I'm down with the Twitter thing, though. You can still, like, Twitter is still the company that gets legal service when they send you.
That's the biggest mistake in branding. That image of
Imagine
the bird.
spending $44 billion on a brand name only to throw the brand name in the toilet. Like, you're like, dude, I actually hated the name Twitter. I hated it. For all the time that it existed, it's gone back to what, like 2008 or something? And I was like, I'm never going to be on it because it's a dumb name. It's a dumb name as a stupid bird. And then I started, when I finally got on it, which of course I did begrudgingly, I'm like, oh no, that's actually the perfect name for this. Like, it's a bunch of people going, like a bunch of nobody saying nothing to themselves that's not real. It's like birds in a tree. And if you're not in the tree, it's totally irrelevant. As long as your car's not parked under it getting crapped on, then that tree makes no difference whatsoever. It's just birds making noise. So, and you can scare them all off with one shotgun. It turns out they all fly off. So Twitter is a great name. X is a terrible name, but Elon Musk has some weird thing. Like when you're super rich and people don't tell you that your brilliant ideas are bad, then you do things like that.
You're rich enough, you're just called eccentric and not moronic. That's what
Look,
it is.
eccentric is walking out of the main office with a toilet in your hand to show that you're going to flush the bowl. That's eccentric. Throwing a $44 million brand down the toilet because you don't like the name anymore and you really like letters and you want to name your kid X as well and you want to name your space company X and you want to name your car company X and you want to name your money company X, like that's just dumb. That's a bad idea. It was always a bad idea.
When I went on my morning run this week earlier, they did a SpaceX launch and we're kind of having rainstorms right now. So it was a little bit cloudy. You normally can't see it, but because it was so dark, I saw this illumination happening on the horizon that was not in the east.
It scares the shit out of you.
It's like, did the human Roomba hit the launch keys?
Right. Wyoming is now bombing Florida. Like, that's what that feels like when you see those things. I watched one of those things land and I thought we were being attacked by aliens. I didn't realize what the Falcon thing, because it's like a missile, but it's like self-directed and it's changing. And you're like, oh, Phoenix is over. It's done. We were up in the
right
mountains.
back down and lands on water. And then those nerds down at NASA are going crazy. I mean, it's private now, but it's pretty cool.
I don't want any of that. Talk about ideas that, like, you have ideas and nobody. This is the biggest problem I see right now with Donald Trump. And I honestly have prayed that somebody would be able to help him intervene. The problem is the folks that you used to work with and around and all those types, they only tell Donald Trump what he wants to hear because that's their ticket. Donald Trump needs honest advising that doesn't agree with his bad ideas. I'm going to play you a bad idea, people. This is a terrible idea, and I'll tell you why it's a bad idea, because it doesn't address the underlying cause. And getting rid of America's brilliant public land system, if you live in the East Coast and you don't know about public lands, they're epic. I live in Texas. There's no public lands. When you live in a public land state and you're like, oh, that belongs to everybody, you can go up there and go camping, you can go hiking, and no one can be like, no, this is private property because it belongs to America. It's freaking epic. It is one of the coolest things. There's hunting. There's the ability to go out and just experience nature, and holding on to that is a big deal. Here's Donald Trump saying he wants to get rid of public land so he can build crappy housing. And I assume it's because we have like 30 million illegal immigrants hiding in this country. They're building housing rather than saying we're going to deport everybody and we're going to give houses away that the government was already paying for. No, we're going to destroy public lands. This is a stupid take. Like, this is like against conservationists and sportsmen and people that love this thing. And there's a lot of them, and most of them don't vote. You give them a reason to. Other than this is a bad one.
We will open up new tracts of federal land for large-scale housing construction so that we can get housing on the market. About 18% of all land in Arizona is owned by the Bureau of Land Mismanagement.
Actually, the Bureau of Land Management does a pretty decent job of having cool spaces. I used to live in New Mexico, and I could walk to it, and it was awesome. It was awesome having hiking trails and places that are just preserved. Because otherwise, people just pave paradise and put a parking lot on it. You know, the hippies are dumb, except when they're right about that.
And I think you need to restate what he's articulating there in the opposite way. He's saying we don't have enough houses, or the housing prices are too high because of the shortage, so we need to have more houses. So what he's saying is, if you've acquired a house and you've paid it off and you own a house and it's now accrued value, you've built up the equity into it, we're going to take that away from you because we're just going to create a greater overall supply. So now your wealth has been reduced and spread out to the others. That sounds a lot like Marxism.
It does.
I'm not really comfortable with that. And
it's the same as forcing people to pay for IVF. Like, why should that be distributed across insurance companies? It doesn't. It's just like, don't use the federal government, man. These are small problems.
This is why, being a small government guy, I'm going to go against my overall nature on this one. I'm going to recommend a position, a new government position. It needs to be a regular guy who needs to be the last person in the room. And it should probably be like a 6-week rotation, like jury duty. Like, you get it in the mail and you're like, I got to be the regular guy for 6 weeks. We'll put you up in Washington, D.C. You can live high on the hog of those 6 weeks, and then you got to get pulled out because you're going to get co-opted. And you need to just tap the shoulder of the president and be like, no, man, you're getting astray here. That sounds like
the regular guy audience position.
Yeah.
It's just a normal American sounding board sort of situation.
They're trying like a focus group type of role. I think
one
it
guy
would actually go a long way.
I think it would too. They're insulated in these places and they don't hear this. Now listen, that's not to say that the other side is good. The other side is horrific. Here's Tim Walz running on a platform of the political left, attempting to basically say that their position is going to help people out in the housing crisis when straight up housing prices have become the least affordable under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. So I don't know how he thinks this is a sell job, but like all you'd be is like, okay, but your partner sucks. Like, this is the only, like, somebody should be heckling this. So here he is saying things that are crazy too.
They might not be sitting down at the bar talking about banning books, but they might down there be talking about, how can I afford a house? I'm working hard. I want to have a house.
Oh, yeah. And the federal government should be part of it, apparently. And now both of the people are saying it. Did you notice, by the way, it says
the Venn diagram is overlapping between both parties, that's danger, because that's uniparty. That's the big party, and you ain't in it, and something bad's going to come out of it. And Tim AWOLs. I like AWOLs as a descriptor for him.
AWOLs, yeah. That's when America loses. When both parties agree on something, then we lose, which is why I think no one for speaker is still the answer. Like, stop spending any of our money. I don't care if we pay you guys to do your salary and not do your job. That would actually be preferable. It's only a couple $1 million.
Just go play baseball. Just go play baseball.
Seriously. Up your skills. Play softball, because you have women there too. Play softball. You guys want to have a bunch of like non-athletic weirdos. Whatever is going to be the safest thing. Full body pads so you don't get hurt. The fact that they're running a campaign called what is that? A new leap forward? Is that what it's called? Hold on, let me throw it back on the screen.
A new path forward, or
They might not be setting.
Yeah, a new way forward. Very, very similar to the Maoist 1958 Great Leap Forward. It's not a great look for them to be able to align themselves with like 1950s China, but they are.
Well, she does talk about the being unburdened by what has been, and I can't help but think about Pol Pot and having year zero.
Dude, this is straight up like 15 to 55 million people were killed during that what was it, about a 4 or 6 year period in the Maoist revolution. So we're talking about a legitimately genocidal path. Oh, the thing that Kyle and Steve were talking about at the Bureau while we were there. Go figure.
Look, that wasn't the hill to die on, though.
That wasn't the hill to die on, right? You know what a good hill to die on is? Having your fans. I'm just going to play a couple of loony clips because they're fun. This is A. Waltz, your boy A. Waltz, bringing up the cat thing. And then imagine being such a loony group of people that the chat you do, and this is, I can only imagine these are like 50 to 70-year-old white women with no kids chanting, "We're not eating cats." Listen for the chant, because this is also fun. Like I said, I hate everybody today. Faith over fear. I'm not scared of any of it, but like I don't like any of it. Here we go.
And you tell me you had this on your bingo card, and they're eating cats, and they're eating cat. What can you say?
We're not eating cats.
We're
not
eating cats. They actually knew that was coming, because they immediately went into chanting, because they're all mindless, autonomous.
And then he was like, "Oh, they did it on time. I'm so happy. I'm so happy." He has like that. You know what? His actual physical reactions are that of like a teenage Japanese girl wearing like a tiny Hello Kitty backpack. Why is that grown man? He kicks his leg awkwardly and he like covers his face and he giggles like this, I think. I'm sure he sits down to pee. What's with that guy? Why is he like that?
It is the duality of Tim AWOLs is crazy, because his resume, even if you ignore this,
Command Sergeant Major,
and he's got the deep baritone voice, and he's coming from Middle America. He's America's dad, and then he acts literally like a mean girl from
like
junior high.
Like this. He does two hands, but they're not covering anything. They're like,
like
he's an Asian teenager.
Put to it for a decision. Would you let Tim AWOLs babysit your children?
No.
There's not a chance in the world,
dude.
man.
I don't even let people
I
like
worked
babysit
that
my
violation
kids.
for a year, getting those vibes.
Okay, you know who I also would not let babysit my kids, and I probably wouldn't want to have an endorsement from? Pick one
Darth
person
Vader.
in American politics. Who is Darth Vader in American politics for the last 25 years?
Dick Cheney.
Hold your horses, because that was my favorite part of the entire debate. It's the only part that I found fun.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney and Satan. That's next.
The Sith Lord is back.
Like a demon, it rises again.
Dick Cheney, Darth Vader, Satan.
Thank you to Satan for giving me inspiration on how to play this role.
We don't need Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney was dangerous. That war.
The only thing you got to do is just be better than Dick Cheney.
I like to see Dick Cheney exposed. He's a liar.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
You were part of the Dick Cheney cult that led to hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis being killed because of the cult you were in.
Cheney dishonestly made up the idea they had nuclear weapons, just lied. Why do they want these wars? What is it that they don't like somebody because they don't like the look of their face?
Irrelevant national embarrassments, Dick Cheney and Liz Cheney.
I'm old enough to remember Dick Cheney driving over to the CIA to look over their shoulders to make sure they gave him the intel that he wanted so as to justify the Iraq war.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
No apologies, no regrets from former Vice President Dick Cheney for the harsh CIA interrogation techniques.
Under Dick Cheney's tutelage, we got the photographs at Abu Ghraib.
The former vice president, at one point, signing a waterboard kit.
Cheney, of course, unrepentant. You know what? Go to go to hell.
I want to talk about a man rotten to his very core, which is in itself a tiny black hole from which no joy or light can escape. The ancient Coptics knew this man as Unhotek, the Dark One, the jagged tooth forest demon who steals our children. We know him as former Vice President Dick Cheney.
I actually have the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney.
Okay, it goes on for like more minutes. They hated Dick Cheney. How crazy are you to go out there and go, you know what? What was their whole thing? They were going to go against J.D. Vance, that he was weird. And then she's like, I have the endorsement of Dick Cheney. That's a weird flex, y'all.
When you have people in this ivory city who principles don't matter to, there's no consistency. I do think that Dick
it swings
Cheney's
both ways. That's our point.
It was supplanted though, because Taylor Swift was timed that endorsement to be post debate.
Totally
said, so the woman who got famous singing about her bad decisions endorses Kamala Harris.
Yeah, there's been some remakes of some of her songs. I don't find her physically
35
attractive.
and she acts like she's 17.
Right.
I mean, she'd probably get along really well with Tim Awals.
Let's be real about this. Yes. I can't believe you said that. Here's the thing that I know. When I was growing up, they always took like 25 and 28-year-olds to play high school kids in all the movies. They're better about it now. They actually have younger people that look like they're actually in those things. But they always get grown-ups to play kids because they're smarter and they're better at it and they can take better direction. I think Taylor Swift is the best like 19-year-old mean girl, whatever she is, or she basically aspires to be 20 years younger. And so the people who are 20 years younger think it's amazing. They're like, oh my God, she's just like me. She has cats and no husband. Oh, she probably doesn't menstruate because she has no body fat. Like, it's just like me.
I mean,
it's amazing.
We're similar age demographic, and I was talking about this. I don't feel like I've aged. I mean, physically I have, but like in my mind, I'll always be like 25, right? Like that's where I'm at. And
it really hurts my feelings when I go for a run though, Steve.
But I think that she stopped that process really at 17 years old. And she's just always 17 in her head. Like that's probably what happened there.
Why did you freeze? You just froze up. Now you're back.
I'm back.
You froze at like one of those great moments where you're like saying something and you looked upward. Yeah, I don't understand. I don't think she's attractive. I've got some other people that are not attractive that are kind of fun because we're just having kind of a riff off. Let me say thanks to my buddies at Patriot Coolers. I think I got one on the desk here. Of course I do. I've always got one of these. Steve probably has one as well. This one is engraved with Suspendables merch. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code KYLE. Save yourself 10%. Patriot Coolers. We use it for coffee. We use it for water. I'm about to go pull the trigger on more for my kids. They're now old enough to use straws and not spill everything they touch. My 5-year-old, my 7-year-old, we'll test that, and we're going to test those lids. PatriotCoolers.com. Yeah, they actually work really, really well. You can drop them, and they won't spill. They'll keep your beverages the temperature you want. Check out their hard-sided, their soft-sided tumblers. Get a hat that says Patriot. I don't know if you're doing some camping. Check it out. Check them out. They're good people. They've been supporting us since the beginning, legitimately, and we love them. Everybody in the Suspendables crew has one of them, including, what do we call him? Producer Emeritus, Mr. Phil. Also has
Producer Emeritus sounds good. Yeah, let's give him some bona fides.
Okay, I got one for you. Ready? This is in that same line as like weirdos that like we created space for these people. The only really sad thing is that by creating space for really unhealthy things like wearing bunny ears at the city council and being a hooker, or being a guy who wants to fight like 15 black dudes on a college campus, or being 7,000 pounds. I've worked with this population. They refer to it as the bariatric population. Have you heard this before?
No,
bariatric,
I haven't.
It just means you're really fat. It means that you're super
walking
fat.
Heart attacks, right?
I had a guy that was one of our patients. I think he was close to 700 pounds or just over 700 pounds, which is a lot of man. And he needed a full-time little tiny girl that would like help him stand up. She would like put her full body weight to lift him off the bed. He would stand up from that. If he fell down, it was game over. And I brought him into the ambulance, and he was just suffering from like, I don't know, like a flu or a cold. And we brought him in on the ambulance. We had to go get the special ambulance, which was a 737. That's what the number of the ambulance was. And so I was an air traffic controller, and 737 is a heavy category for planes. So I was like, Medic 9 is now 737 heavy. And I got like people texting me all the time. They were like, I was like, I don't know, dude. It's just what I say. It had a Kevlar rope and a winch, and we would winch them up because you couldn't get them up the ramp. And it was a long, extra long ramp. You had to set out cones. It was a whole process to get these super fat people up. And then when I got to the hospital, like he didn't have any special problems or needs. And so they were really mad at me that I didn't call in and say that I had a bariatric patient. And I'm like, he's just a fat guy with a cold. But there's an entire field of medicine for the super fat. It's known as bariatric medicine. I don't know why I went on that rant, other than we've created space for them to exist in this space in the same way as the tranny hooker dude, whatever his deal was. And it's not good for them either. This is the real point. It's not good for the tranny hooker to be out there and being a hooker. It's not good to be a super fat person and accept your truth and fat positivity or whatever it is. You're much better off being a runner with sore knees like a Steve Friend than being 700 pounds because you die. You straight up die. Here's Blair White, who's a dude, by the way, which is very upsetting because most people, if you guys don't know this is a dude making this comment. Still correct, even for a transgender person.
Just because I'm fat, that doesn't invalidate the things that I say.
She died.
You ready to get supersized?
She died too.
Today I got the big Fruit Loop.
He's dead.
Join me on my Fat Positive radio show.
Which didn't last long because she died.
This is predictable. These outcomes are predictable. And so we're walking into this thing. I keep seeing it with terrifically bad ideas. And then we're surprised. It's like you're 33 and you died of a heart attack because you were 700 pounds and you were on a mega eating food channel. Like that's how you made your money.
There's a plumb line here because I always look at these people like the 600, 700 pound person. And I'm thinking, you didn't have that moment like where you were getting out of breath, rolling over in bed. Like, and you just be like, all right, I've had my I had it moment and I'm going to change things. And they didn't, or because they were afraid to, they're afraid to be embarrassed. And then they just wallowed and they just like, well, no sense in correcting the problem now. It's already too late for me. And the plumb line is the people that say, this isn't the hill to die on, over and over and over again. They're too afraid to take the stand until it gets to a point where it's like, well, we can't course correct now.
It's too late. I'm 700 pounds. I have no other choice but to eat huge Fruit Loops until I die on a webcam show. I had that moment actually when I left the counterintelligence division because I sat in a chair and did nothing for like 2 years. And I was like, oh, I've put on something like 20 pounds and this feels terrible. And like, I don't like that I'm not as fast as I was. And I used to be much more physically active. And so I just stopped eating all food that wasn't a meat. I only ate meats for like 90 days or 100 days. And I dropped 25 pounds in the first month, not even because I was intending to. I was just like, I just needed to get healthier and get stronger. And I was like, damn, I'm fast. I'm light. I'm not even working out. Like I lost all the weight with doing nothing. And then at some point I was like, man, I really miss cake. And so I went back to eating regular food again. But at the same time, it's like, did you not look at yourself at 20 pounds heavier than where I wanted to be? I was like, this sucks. This is not a good experience for me.
Put on a weighted vest. It's 20 pounds. And that is all the reinforcement you need. Like, I don't want to gain 20 pounds. That's really hard and difficult on my body.
Yeah. And if you're feeling like, hey, I'm in that boat, Kyle, like what sucks? Like go get yourself, like you can check out our sponsor, Mad Hat Jerky, and get yourself jerky so that whenever you're hungry, you eat a salty food that has some sweetness in it that's not going to like make you gross. I don't know. Like I'm not telling people what diets to do. I'm just saying we've accepted a lot of really unhealthy things and we don't lampoon it. There were these people that actually responded to that, the Jim Jordan clip. And they said, the problem is that you look bad because it's bullying. We need less bullying. And I'm like, no. We need more bullying. That was the whole point of Donald Trump 2016. Somebody needs to go in and bully these people. And at some point in time, he's lost that bullying instinct because people are trying to tell him how to retain power. If he was all mean all the time and it was Laura Loomer and he was like, I like Laura, she's a jerk to everybody I hate, I'd be like, okay.
All things in moderation. That's really the takeaway here. Like extreme bullying is destructive and terrible. And that's why I became a police officer, because that's what bad guys are. They're bullies.
Yes.
But at the same time, shame is a useful tool. It says, hey, maybe 700 pounds is not socially acceptable. It's going to make my life difficult. So I'm going to eat a little bit healthier. Or you know what? I'm kind of ashamed to go out in public wearing bunny ears and admitting that I'm a hooker. So maybe I'll try to improve my life in what ways that I can. And shame of, this isn't the hill to die on. Oh, you're weak. You're pathetic. You're unwilling to actually take a stand, a principled stand that you say you have. Do better, bro.
It's super easy. And then also don't let your kids do the things that are nuts, that are all their instincts, like maybe cutting off their genitals because they're confused, which is a very small number of people that actually have that, but more people are kind of encouraged to it. So I have a palate cleanse for us today. I didn't put a 5-star review up because I just didn't feel like it. I have a palate cleanse, and I think there's a decent chance, Steve, that this is one of your boys. I think your boys are more articulate. It's the only argument that this is not one of your kids. But you need to viciously make fun of your children when they do hilariously weird things like this particular thing. As we wrap up today, on kind of a frustrating moment in American history. There are still kids out there doing little regular boy stuff. So I love simultaneously that he did this. And I also know that this dad probably straightened him out right afterwards. Are you prepared for this?
Send it.
Okay, folks, this is a visual that you're going to need to have. I'll explain it after the fact, but this conversation is between a dad and his son and like one of his other boys in the yard. I think he just came home from school because he has a backpack on.
Kenton just brought a bird from the woods. What do you have?
I don't know. Crazy. I don't know what it is.
How in the world did you catch that?
I think it's injured. I was walking down to our fort. I think it was then injured. I saw it run and I chased it. Then it went up in the tree. Then I shake the tree and it fell and it was running. Then I got hold of it and I pulled it to me.
Yeah, it's not a chicken, dude. Quit petting it.
What was that bird, Steve?
It's a turkey buzzard.
Yeah, it was a turkey vulture. The kid is like hugging onto it and petting it like a chicken, like it's about to lay some eggs. That's like the ugliest, nastiest bird that you could ever find. And that kid said, he's like, how the hell did you get that? He's like, oh, I just shook the tree and I ran it down and then I caught onto it and I held on and then I carried it home to you.
To present to you like a cat who has a kill.
Yeah. He was so proud of himself. He was like, look what I got. I got a 20-pound buzzard that eats carrion, these dead animals on the side of the road.
Stop petting it, son.
He didn't even go stop him either. He's like, stop petting that thing, man. But he didn't go like knock it out of his hands.
No,
he let him hold on to it.
The dad thing. I'm going to memorialize this on video and I'm
That's
going
right.
to show it to you on your wedding day because like I told my boys, the day that I'm not making fun of you is the day that I don't like you very much. That's what men do. We find the things that make us the most sad or vulnerable, and we then incessantly get like a dog with a bone. We'll just pile onto that thing. That's how we express affection. I know it doesn't make sense, but that's just the way things are because men and women are different.
Men and women are different. That seems like the theme that we've gotten into today.
That's not the hill to die on.
It's not the hill to die on. I should rename this episode from Friendly Friday the 13th to Not the Hill to Die on. Steve, a lot of people wouldn't have done what you did, and most people can barely grasp it from hearing this, but over and over, your employer, the people that were paying you, told you, don't associate with this guy, Kyle Seraphin. He's a real problem. He's a problem for us, for our movement, for our brand, and that's not what we're about. And over, you push back and made them, you basically went all in enough times for them eventually to basically bankrupt you on it. And you still win, I think, because you came away with integrity and they're still cowards.
Look, we're on Team Truth, and that's what the Suspendable brand is. Do the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reasons. We've held to that, and we always will. That's why you'll go through any door with me, and I'll go through any door with you. Whoever said it doesn't matter. It's not who gets the credit. It's just do the right thing is all that matters.
I think it matters who gets the credit, so that's where we differ on that.
Well, that's why you get 10,000 views per episode. The American Radicals are struggling with a couple dozen.
All right, tell people what you got going on. What are you doing this weekend with the AMRADs? And people, if you do not understand what the AMRAD is, American radicals are people that think being a radical American means that you actually do America. And I shamelessly stole that from my friend Steve Friend here. Doing America, turning it into an action verb. You want to do America. Where can they go do America with you guys this weekend?
You could do America because it's not a leisure pursuit, but you can still have fun with us. The American Radicals podcast is on Rumble, rumble.com/AmRadPod. The next episode is tomorrow, Saturday, noontime Eastern. It will be streaming. Garrett had to take a couple of days off to go to North Dakota for a speaking engagement, which he didn't get paid for, Security Division of the FBI, so you don't have that to go after him for. And he's back, and we're going to be talking about some issues in the military, and that's why I held that one back, because he has service in the Army, and I want to get his perspective. So join us 12 o'clock on Rumble, rumble.com/AmRadPod.
A man who does the right thing for the right reasons, Steve Friend. Follow Steve at Real Steve Friend. If you're not following him already, and at least half of you that follow me do not follow Steve yet, so you're missing out on probably a newly unburdened by what has been Steve Friend on social media.
I'm expecting year zero.
It is year zero, and the spicy takes are going to start coming out, I think, harder against the people that have really earned it, including our friends over at the FBI. So follow Steve at Real Steve Friend. Thanks for being with me on this Friday the 13th. And that's it. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to break away right now. Adios, my friend. I'll talk to you a little bit later on. Folks, it's time. It's time for you guys to go out and have a good weekend by unplugging from the craziness of social media. There is nothing but ugliness out there, and your family and your neighbors are the way to keep your sanity. I'm going to do it. I'm going to probably put my phone down as soon as I walk away from this desk and try to participate no more. We've done a lot of media this week. If you guys didn't listen to our call-in show, we had a brand new bug that has never occurred before. I had to actually go and get a new green room program to be able to bring George Hill in. But you can listen to our calls. We got a little bit dark. George Hill estimates, and I'm going to quote him on it, but because I don't think he's wrong, a 10% chance that Donald Trump is even able to get into the White House, that they will even allow an election of any kind. And that's coming from a guy who spent 26 years in the military and the civilian intelligence agencies. It's not a good look. So start hardening your hearts and your minds, and hardening your neighborhoods, the people around you. Go out there and choose faith over fear. I'm wearing the shirt all day today to remind myself. I hope you guys remember as well. Arm yourself spiritually, arm yourself physically, arm yourself with preparedness, and arm yourself with the ability to just say the right thing when it's time. Do what Steve Friend did. You're going to all get a chance to step up to that red line at some point. Don't let anyone push you over it. I mean that. And that'll be my final thoughts. So God bless you all. We'll look forward to seeing you on Monday with a fresh sense of vigor and vim and America. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Seraphin.